Okay, in these NBA playoffs, after two teams went up 2-0, we'll talk about the second round, this being the Heat and the Suns, we thought this series would end very, very soon, right? They were the first seed versus the fourth seed. They were playing teams whose main stars, Luka and Embiid, were injured and not at 100%. When they went up 2-0, at least I was expecting a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. 5 games, Sonara, right? And they blew the series leads. A large part of this was because of atrocious shooting and random role players acting as quality all stars, new acquisitions that gave those teams, a chance to try out new things that ended up becoming really successful. Embiid's return, and this is a very oversimplification, Embiid's return meant that James Harden wasn't double teamed every second, which coincided with James Harden having his best playoff game all year, maybe 2 years. Okay, the Mavericks and the 76ers, they won 2 games in a row unexpectedly because random variables shifted in their favor. Oh, now Dallas' supporting cast is having the best shooting night in a decade. No one in the Miami Heat can score. Nobody except Tyler and Butler. No one can get in double digits. Okay, these things happen all the time. It happens all the time. But it's also the reason why, the NBA, the modern NBA, 7-game series. Okay, the less chance for weird variables, to impact, the more likely the better team, the more winningest team will advance to the next round. Okay, I want to talk about Ja very quickly, right? Now, just like we can base off our interpretations about, playoff series from decades and decades and decades of intel, we can judge Ja Morant and the problems this man will face throughout his career by decades and decades and decades of intel by the players. Okay? Oh, Ja is one of a kind. Oh, no player's ever been like him. Actually, there has been. Okay? He might not be as prototypical, identical as like a Jordan and Kobe. Oh, but I see Derrick Rose in his game. I see Allen Iverson in his game. I see a bit of Isaiah Thomas in this guy. Really, the way he carries himself and leads his team, maybe not as dirty, but he leads his team with no fear. It gives me Zeke vibes. Okay, so knowing the league operates in a certain way, that there's a method to the madness, that you can learn from others to predict players of today. Okay, I wanted to first say, Ja, amazing, one of my favorite players. He's a transcendent player, but this news, of him likely missing the rest of the season, it's a red flag. If Ja was a stock, it would be going great for a number of months, then collapse. Maybe when you want to take it out, right? And leave you with zilch, with nothing. You look at trends, you can look at Ja Morant as a trend, right? And say, okay, red flag. Okay, now I'm afraid this is out of Ja's control. It's not Ja's fault that he has these red flags, but life's unfair. That's just the reality. I'm sorry, life's unfair. When you play a sport where the average dude is a 6'7" tower that can run like a cheetah and jump like a grasshopper, well, what do you want me to say? It's extremely unfair sometimes. Okay, now that's the first red flag. He's too small of a dude. I mean, there was a reason that the Isaiahs and the Nashes and the kids, that these guys didn't have long primes because they got banged around. A big reason LeBron James has been so great for so long, and again, another oversimplification, is because he's just a big dude, right? I'm not even talking height. I'm talking like he's 6'8", but he fits the mold perfectly, meaning he's not the guy that gets pushed. He's the guy that pushes. It helps, when you're a shooter, but Ja Morant shooting 34% from three this season, it's not exactly eye-dropping, okay? He doesn't have a second half of his career. He's going to be like a new Steph Curry, okay? And like with all red flags, there is exceptions. Chris Paul has had an amazing career. Amazing career. Not as athletic as Ja, but an amazing career. But he's also by far the best 37-year-old point guard ever, and it's not even close. In fact, he's the best 32-year-old point guard ever. Okay, like LeBron, amazing player, but he's unprecedented, meaning he's the exception, not the rule. The second red flag, Ja plays a game like he has his trampoline under him, and it's always safe, right? He gets to the rim with quick first step and like lunges himself into plays with not much concern as I would like for how he lands. I mean, we've seen this with a lot of injuries. I mean, everyone can say, "Oh, Troy, he's only he's missed one playoff game in his entire career. He's probably going to miss his whole series." But every year he's played less and less and less games because he finds a way to get hurt. That's the reality of the matter. If I'm buying stock, I'm going to look for the consistency, the reliability. I'm not saying he's quite, there yet with these injury-prone players that we really look at like this, like a Kawhi Leonard, like a Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid. I mean, firstly, Joel Embiid is having one of his luckiest seasons ever. Think about this. Luckiest seasons ever health-wise. And yes, that face injury was a freak, bit of a freak injury, just like his thumb. But when you keep listing these injuries as freak injuries, examples to me, who doesn't get this often? LeBron. LeBron doesn't get these weird freak injuries. I mean, he's played such a long career, and he had that ankle issue when a player did dive into his ankles, which was a freak injury. But if we're doing an all-time draft, and you wanted me to pick the player who will be at his peak for as long as possible, right? Regardless of the era of doctors, for as long as possible, well, it's LeBron. And I don't think it's coincidence that we don't see LeBron falling down as often as Ja does, right? Again, it's one of the reasons we love him. It really is. He plays ferocious. And it's unfortunate, but there's a price to pay when you're that athletic and maybe dare I say a little bit careless with how you land. From Brandon Roy, from Grant Hill, Derrick Rose, plays that rely on that first step so heavily, right? That they just go by you. And once that's gone, you're gone soon. Now, Ja is a lot more than a first step, but he's also really careless when he's in the air. He's also really, really small. And, these are red flags, with this guy. And I hope he has a long and great career. I really do. But we have seen this intel over the last decades. We've seen this movie with guys like Ja. Okay, don't always have the careers that we envision. Okay, we love and support Ja 100%. Please like and subscribe.